Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck. Today we're doing a currently reading update to chat about what I've been reading recently, which honestly has not been a lot. I've kind of been in a reading slump for all of June, and I have been reading way less than I normally do, which has been kind of frustrating, but I am hoping that I'm like on the upswing and I'm gonna start reading more, because in the last few days I've been feeling a little bit more in the mood to read. So I'm hoping that July will be a good reading month. I feel like this happens every year though, in like around mid-year or especially in June, that I just don't feel like reading, and I have no idea why, but for some reason that's a pattern in my reading year. But let's just get started. So the book that I most recently finished was Fox Mask by Juliet Marillier. This is the second book in the Light Isles duology, which is kind of a Norse-inspired historical fiction series. In the first one, we're following a man who's a wolfskin, which is kind of like a Viking. They go on raids, and he and his best friend and a bunch of other people end up on an island, and drama ensues between them and the people of the island. And they meet like a priestess, and there's a lot of folklore that happens that's involved in that story. In the second book, we're following some of the children of the characters from the first book, one of whom has never met his father, and at the beginning of the story has just found out who his father is and what happened to him, and so he decides to set out to find his father, and some of his friends come along with him, and then they get involved in some trouble that like nobody would have expected from the beginning of their journey. And of course that one also has a lot of folklore wrapped up into it, as all of Juliet Marillier's books do. And so this was a reread for me, and this duology is one of my less favorite series from her, but I'm trying to reread all of Juliet Marillier's books because some of them, it's been such a long time since I reread them. So that's why I was making my way through this duology. But I just felt like some of the characters in this one were really frustrating, which made the slow pace of the book more difficult for me to get through. Usually I really love how slow and atmospheric and character focused her books are, but because I wasn't enjoying these characters so much, it just made it feel more like it was dragging. So that's the one that I most recently finished, and I'm glad that I finally got that one done. Then the physical book that I'm reading right now is Realm of Ash by Tasha Suri. This is the second book in the Books of Amba duology. The first one was, Empire of Sand, which I read last year and I enjoyed. And this is a companion duology where this one is following the sister of the character from the first book. And in this, she has been married off to a nobleman, but he has recently died, I think in some kind of mysterious circumstances. And she has elected to go live in a hermitage for widows of noblemen. And she had other options, but for some reason she has elected to do this, and it's kind of implied that it's because of something to do with some magical powers that she has that may have been involved in her husband's death, and that's why she's trying to like isolate herself in this hermitage. I'm not very far into it yet, so I don't really know what's going on right now. I'm only like 20 pages in. I read the first chapter of this, but from what I've read, I'm already very intrigued by this, and it reminded me that I do really enjoy Tasha Suri's writing. So I'm glad to be finally finishing this duology as well. Then I have two audiobooks that I'm listening to. One of them I'm not really gonna get into, which is A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers, which is the second book in the Wayfarer series, which is a kind of slice of life adult sci-fi series. But I am reading this as part of a vlog, so I'm not gonna get into my thoughts on it right now, because I want to save that for the vlog. But the other audiobook that I am listening to right now is Masquerade in Lodi by Lois McMaster Bujold, which is the 9th I think, book in the Penric and Desdemona series of novellas. I just love this series. I really like Lois McMaster Bujold's fantasy series. They always feel very cozy, and this series in particular, I just really enjoy the characters of Penric and Desdemona. Penric is a sorcerer, and the way that sorcerers get powers in this world is that they are possessed by a chaos demon, but it's not like a dark, in his case, he's kind of made friends with his chaos demon. He named her Desdemona and they're buddies. So it's not like a dark chaos demon. She mostly just like lectures him about things. In this one, it's another one that I'm not super far into. I kind of just finished some books and I have recently started some new ones, so I'm not very far into any of these. But in this one, I think it takes place like the night before or the night of a big party that is the masquerade, but Penric and Desdemona get sucked into this mystery because there's this man who's been washed up on shore that everyone thinks is mad, but they find out that he may be possessed by a demon who is not as nice as Desdemona, and they have to help sort that out. And yeah, I'm just having a lot of fun with this one already. I just always enjoy Lois McMaster Bujold's fantasy, and especially Penric and Desdemona. So those are the books that I am currently reading. Then as for what I'm going to be reading next, I really have no idea, because as I said, I've kind of been in a reading slump, and so I really haven't been making a lot of plans for reading. I only have one book that I know I'm reading this month because it's a buddy read, but other than that, most of my reading plans have just gone out the window, and I just am going to completely be like 100% mood reading anything that looks good. But something that I have been in the mood for recently is something that is like a forest fantasy. That's something that I'm kind of always in the mood for, but since I've kind of been feeling slumpy, I particularly have been wanting to pick up something that has like nature atmosphere and has like foresty magic, because it's something that I enjoy so much. So I'm hoping that would kind of get me out of this slumpy feel. So I have two books that I've been considering. One is Into the Heartless Wood by Joanna Ruth Meyer. This is on my summer TBR recently, so it would be a good one to pick up so that I could, you know, check something off of that TBR. But this is a YA fantasy that has forest sirens. So there are these like tree spirits who lure people into the forest and kill them. So this one is promising to have some good forest vibes to it. And then the other one is a book I actually just got and I haven't hauled yet, which is For the Wolf by Hannah Witten, which I think is like a mix of a Red Riding Hood and Beauty and the Beast retelling, maybe. And the tagline that everyone reads from this is, the first daughter is for the throne, the second daughter is for the wolf. So the main character that we're following, who I think is named Red, is going to be sacrificed to the wolf, but then she finds out that I think he's not actually a wolf and he's actually a man, not a monster, but they have to try and save the world. I don't know a whole lot about it, but it also promises forest vibes. There are some other books that also have like forest settings that I'm interested in, but I'm actually more excited about those ones. And so I'm at the moment, because I'm feeling slumpy, I don't really want to read the books that I'm like most excited for. So I'm trying to find the good like happy medium of books that I'm excited for and will get me out of this reading slump, but not the ones that I'm most excited for, so that if it doesn't work, it doesn't kind of like taint the book that I'm so excited for. I don't know if that made any sense, but that's my logic at the moment. So that is what I have been reading lately. I'd love to hear what you've been reading recently. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye.